You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Well, I got to tell you, it might be the last edition of the Show Before the Show podcast because Sam and I, now international celebrities, after this podcast was plugged on national television last night.
International television. Let's just tell ourselves it went to like Canada and Mexico.
It was on the internet.
It was on the internet. We put it on the internet. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, we were touted as newsmakers and the stars of tomorrow on the commercial. Both of those were just about us.
Talking about the actual minor leaguers in which we interview. They were talking about us. We are the makers of news.
Yep.
The newsmakers. And
we're the newsmakers and the stars of tomorrow, as the commercial for MILB.com told you last night. I don't see what there is to refute about that.
No, we're just
said
facts.
Sam Dykstra and Tyler Mon, newsmakers and stars of tomorrow. That was the whole commercial, basically, as I remember.
Get new business cards.
Yeah, let's just get those printed up. Somebody send us business cards. Hi everybody, welcome in. It's episode number 77 of the Show Before the Show podcast, which, yes, you may have seen featured in that sweet 30-second spot for MILB.com last night during the AAA National Championship game in Memphis, Tennessee. We're going to get to talking about that here in just a couple of moments with our best pal. I'll go ahead and say it. Our best pal, Kelsie Heneghan, who has joined us from Memphis, from the AAA National Championship game, I should say, in years past, last season. Today, she'll be in studio, which is even more exciting for all of us. But before we get to all that, hey, the Show Before the Show podcast is on iTunes. We're on the Stitcher app now as well. Find us there. You can give us a rating and a review and a subscription. And you can also email the podcast at MILB.com. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been told that we hate the Brewers and that we're members of the hypocritical media for not thinking that Tim Tebow will be successful. So the email inbox is working beautifully. I love it.
Yeah, and actually, it's a good thing you talked about the email. Just because since we are entering the off season now, we're totally open to topics. People have talked about we should do like a butterfly effect episode. I'm definitely down for that. Talking about, what had happened if a prospect had gotten promoted or if a prospect hadn't been traded, something like that. So we'll definitely have something like that coming up. We'll always do our AFL mock draft, that kind of stuff. We'll have some fun stuff. But if there's things people want us to talk about on the podcast in this offseason, we're definitely all ears and I guess all email inbox.
One caveat, not Tim Tebow. But aside from that, we will take your suggestions. Podcast at MILB.com. I'm just playing the role of heel. I think I've played it so well to this point unwittingly, and now I'll just play it full on. So, hey, but yeah, you can get in touch with this podcast at MILB.com. Also, Sam's on Twitter. He's at Sam Dykstra, MILB, and I am at Tyler Mon. And again, give us a rating and a review and a subscription and all that kind of good stuff on the old podcasting sites, wherever you find your favorite shows. We are there, and we will be here all off-season as well. We don't go away for the off-season. You know why? Because there is no off-season. This week, World Baseball Classic qualifiers in Brooklyn. Starting in the next couple of weeks, the Arizona Fall League gets rolling. Prospects could make contributions in the postseason in the World Series. Last year, we saw Raul Mondesi, the top prospect in the Kansas City Royals organization, make his Major League debut in the World Series. So we don't go away just because the minor league season has ended. But with that, the minor league season has ended, and we get set for strike one in this week's edition of Three Strikes for episode number 77. And we do welcome in Kelsie Heneghan, who is fresh off of her return from AutoZone Park in Memphis, Tennessee, and the AAA National Championship game that saw the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders take down the El Paso Chihuahuas 3-1, and a really, really good matchup last night. We're recording on Wednesday. Tuesday night, really good matchup between those two teams in Memphis. Seems like a good crowd. Kelsie, welcome. Tell us about last night in Memphis.
Hey, Tyler, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. Not as exciting as it was for you last night, but I got a chance to watch it. A fun matchup between those two teams.
It was. Everyone kept talking about it was going to be pitching versus hitting, and that's what it was for the most part. But the pitching came out on top as expected.
Yeah, so kind of get into that a little bit. The Scranton Wilkes-Barre obviously came away with a win, 3-1. Chris Parmalee got the 3-run homer there in the first, and that ended up being all they needed for the rest of the game. I know you got to talk to Parmalee a little bit, but what was your sense, not only from that, but from the pitching performance from Jordan Montgomery? I know he was a guy we were all looking at. He was coming off a pretty strong season for Scranton Wilkes-Barre. How was that combination able to get the Rail Riders a AAA title last night?
Yeah, so Montgomery had a pretty good start to start the playoffs for the Rail Riders, and then was a little shaky to start Game 1 of the Governor's Cup Finals, but he bounced back very easily and without much problem in this AAA National Championship game. And the entire team knew that he was going to do it. And then they added Phil Koch to the bullpen, which he's been pretty dominant for Scranton this year. And so that was pretty much unstoppable lockdown by the pitching staff. So once Parmalee came up in the first after Peyton and Frazier came on, he just hit that home run. He wasn't sure if it was fair or foul, ended up landing in a grassy, bermy area, which is classic to a minor league ballpark. And yeah, that was all they needed. So that was it.
This matchup is so unique across the minors because we don't have any of these other cross-league championship finishes. And it's cool because, these are players who have played against each other and with each other at various stages in their careers, whether it was when they were amateurs or coming up through the minors and that kind of stuff. But when they see each other in the AAA National Championship game, it's almost a very small little example of the way Major League Baseball used to be, where it's two entirely different sides of the game that play on this one big stage in the final chapter. But you get to come across some really neat storylines too, in guys that have seen each other before, in various stages. For example, Clint Frazier and Hunter Renfroe were both first rounders in 2013. They were on opposite sides last night. You also had a good anecdote about Clint Frazier and Phil Koch. Clint Frazier calls Phil Koch Dad in the clubhouse, which Phil Koch being old enough for a player to call him Dad makes me feel ancient. But that's one of the really cool things about this event.
Yeah, and like Pete Kozma of former Cardinal greats, and now he's on Scranton. He came back to Memphis, and he probably got one of the biggest ovations because he played in Memphis when he was first coming up. And then Hunter Renfroe is from Mississippi. He went to Mississippi State, so he also had a lot of people. And Hunter realized that his first AAA game last year was in Memphis. And he was talking to me about it. And he's just like, I tweet about this, so you probably know. But so he's just like, yeah, and this could be my final AAA game too. And then, of course, a few hours later, he was called up. So it could be.
Yeah, I actually wanted to touch on that a little bit. How much did it feel like, today, late last night after the game was over, El Paso loses. They get a pretty good consolation prize in that Margot, Carlos Asuaje, Austin Hedges, Hunter Renfroe, two left-handers, going up to San Diego. Did you get the sense, maybe on media day on Monday or whatever, that they knew that this was going to be their last game, or did it feel like it might have been a little bit of a surprise for them?
I think it was probably a combination. Those guys have all been doing really well right now. They've been the big reason why El Paso led the PCL in home runs and a lot of the offensive categories. So I think that it was kind of like they were due, but at the same time, those type of things you never can assume. You never want to be like, well, it's my time. My El Paso games are over, so let's go up. So I think it was kind of a combination.
Kelsie, tell us a little bit that El Paso dynamic for the last few seasons, with the new ballpark and the way the fans have embraced that team and a lot of the talent that's come through there. It's been really fun to watch that organization grow, and they seem to have really found themselves a winner in the managerial position for that team in Rod Barajas, and a guy who I got a chance to talk to after the Chihuahuas won the PCL. They move on and play in the national championship game, and you got to profile him as a former major leaguer who is now in this position, and just how much his players in that team really love him. What was that like, getting a chance to kind of learn about the next stage of Rod Barajas' career?
Yeah, that was pretty cool, especially because, obviously they say catchers make the best managers, and that was pretty true, especially with Rod Barajas. Everyone you talk to, from Austin Hedges to Al Perduque of Scranton, their manager, who coached Rod Barajas when he was in the minors at one point, they all talk about how he does carry that bit of, being able to manage a game, manage a team, to becoming a manager. And I was just watching the lineups, it's a national gear, it's a big game, so they do the entire roster lineup on the foul line. I was just watching Rod, and he could tell that there wasn't enough room for all of his players to line up, like with the trainers and with all the coaches. So he just kept kind of like gesturing them to move, and it was just kind of cool to see him standing near home plate, using his hands to signal his players and tell them what to do, because he could see from his point of view that it was kind of off. So it was kind of cool seeing that. But yeah, Rod's pretty cool. He was pretty friendly. He has a good handle on things there.
And particularly like with Austin Hedges, I know he was a guy that, coming off a year, I think he hit like 148 last year for the Padres, gets sent back to El Paso. Has kind of I won't say it's a breakout year because he's lost his prospect eligibility. There's no real breaking out there, but ends up being a PCL All-Star. What in your conversations with him this week, what did he say about working with Rod Barajas? Now a second time. What kind of lessons had he kind of gleaned from him?
He said he really talked about game management as more than just pitch calling and managing the running game. Rod really emphasized that as a catcher, you have the ability to be a key position or key player from both sides of the plate. And so I think Hedges really took that to heart, that he could really, hit a bunch of home runs. He was second on the team, and he could also throw some runners out and control his pitchers.
Kelsie, the El Paso Chihuahua is a good story and a talent-laden team, and a lot of those guys get a call to the major leagues yesterday. But the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders, a team that is almost surprising in that they made it through the postseason in the International League. They make it onto the national championship game and win because of just how much talent they lost in the late stages of the regular season. But Gary Sanchez is gone. Aaron Judge is gone. Tyler Austin, these big names that have already broken onto the scene in such a huge way at the major league level, and really, I think, gotten people extremely excited in a very different way than they're used to as Yankees fans for the future. What was the sense? Did you get a sense around the Rail Riders and what that team feels like in terms of, how much talent they've already been able to contribute to the major league level, and just what it feels like being in that organization right now that's reshaping it in such a, quote unquote non-Yankee way over the last 15 years now to see them building from within like this?
Yeah, they definitely seem excited about it. They did touch upon that they lost a lot of big guys, like they even, Gamble got traded after being the IL player or MVP, and Solano got called up right before the championship game. So they definitely talked about how they had all these holes, but then also at the same time, all these guys from Trenton came up, all these guys like Parmalee who had been there the whole time, and Pete Cosmo really stepped up, and even Nestor Cortez made a spot start from Tampa. So they were really proud about how seamlessly they were able to fill those holes with just more guys from their own system.
And one more before we let you go here. I know you've got a story coming up, I think maybe next week, on Clint Frazier. Don't want you giving away the full story, obviously, but what can you kind of tease us out about that coming up next week about the new Yankees top prospect?
Well, obviously Clint didn't exactly perform as well as everyone hoped right out of the gate, right after being traded, and he felt a lot of pressure. He admitted that. So I'm talk to him a little bit about how he dealt with that pressure and when it finally clicked and what's the next step for him.
Kelsie Heneghan is on Twitter, and you can find all of her stuff from the AAA National Championship game at MILB.com. Kelsie's on Twitter at Kelsie, KELSIE _Heneghan, HENEGHAN. And you can tweet at her. You can tweet her your cool off-season ideas as well. It's not just for us in the show. You want some stuff, and you feel like Kelsie's, better than the weirdos like me that write about random old football players for MILB.com, that go that route. Seems like a smart plan. Kelsie, good work as always.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, one last thing. Last night I was talking to some of the front office guys with Scranton, and they said that after the Rail Riders won the Governor's Cup, they were FaceTiming with Ben Gamble, who was traded to the Mariners, and they were talking on the phone with Nick Swisher, who started the year there, or was there for part of the year. So it was kind of cool that these guys who have even left are still a part of the celebration.
That is really cool, and that is that's a team that is one of the most unique identities in 2016 of the minors, with just all of the names, all of the talent, all of the hype that has passed through that roster, and it's going to be a jumping off point for a lot of really good talent from the minor leagues to the Bronx in years to come. And Kelsie, bringing you all the best stories from the AAA National Championship game at AutoZone Park in Memphis. Thanks, Kelsie.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Sam.
All right, moving on. Strike 2 this week wasn't just the AAA postseasons that came to a close, but all across minor league baseball, we saw champions crowned at every level. Everybody is wrapped up now. We move on. The Arizona Fall League comes up next as far as the minor league calendar goes for prospects stateside, and but a whole lot of champions crowned. Sam, who stood out for you? We'll talk a little bit in a while about a kind of a strange little coincidence with a minor league team that won a championship and just a few days later changed affiliations, the Jackson Generals. But they are a very impressive team. Tyler O'Neill and his breakout performance in the playoffs, obviously very impressive. The Midwest League final was a really, really interesting wrap-up, a game that was insane on Sunday, in which the Great Lakes Loons captured a Midwest League title after one of the wackiest back-and-forth seesaw types of games all season. The Midland Rockhounds three-peated. That's a team that we haven't seen, or a feat that we haven't seen in the Texas League since 1920 to 1925, when Fort Worth accomplished 3 straight Texas League crowns in that span. Obviously not in all the years of that span because it's 6 years, but still, Sam, you get what I'm saying. Who stood out to you among these other title winners?
Yeah, no, there's one that I really want to point out and give a shout out to, which is the High Desert Mavericks, getting a Cal League championship in their final season of existence. It was really neat to watch the final out of that. It wasn't on Mill TV, but it was all over social media of just the crowd going crazy, team going crazy. We see a lot of that. It's a championship season, so there's going to be 14 domestic teams that are crown champions in the various leagues, and you're always going to see guys going crazy. But there's a little special something to go along with the Mavs going out on top like that. But what was really special for me beyond that, just another layer beyond that, was Game 2 of the Cal League Finals in Visalia. The Mavericks start Brett Martin, who went on to strike out 15 batters in 7 no-hit innings. That was easily one of the best pitching performances I think we've seen all year. And to see that in that scenario, it wasn't a clinching game. It's a best of 5. So, the Mavs actually swept. They won all 3 games. This was Game 2. So not quite, the clincher. It would have been a heck of a way to go if that was the case. But, 15 strikeouts, no hits allowed, only 1 walk. It ended up being a 1-hitter. The Mavs actually won 1-0, so they needed a start like that out of Martin. That's just the stuff that kind of legends are kind of made on. And I can only imagine what it was like for him to have his season end on that note. He's a starting pitcher. He didn't go in Game 3. So the last thing he did on the mound was toss 7 no-hit innings, hit 15 strikeouts. That is amazing to me. And that, puts Martin on my map. He's already a Rangers prospect, pretty well-regarded one at that. But, that's something that he's going to carry into the offseason. A lot of other people are going to carry into the offseason thinking, what is this guy capable of going forward? Is this something? Is it an outlier? If it is an outlier, it is a heck of a one coming in the playoffs. And kind of sticking on that topic of left-handed pitching, this time in a clinching game, Max Fried, a guy who this is his first full season actually playing in the Braves system. He was traded back in the offseason between 2014 and 2015 to the Padres, sat out all of last year because of Tommy John surgery. Came back this year, pitched only in Rome, another full year at Class A ball. And he took the ball in Game 4 for the Rome Braves, looking to beat out the Lakewood Blue Claws in the South Atlantic League. He ends up getting that win, his second of the playoffs, but he too struck out 13 batters, only allowed 1 run on 4 hits and 3 walks in 7 innings. Fried's a guy he was really well regarded when he was in the Padres system. He was a top 100 prospect. A lot of questions about, how he would handle coming off of surgery, as much as we talk now about Tommy John and how much easier it is to come off a surgery like that than it was in years past. How guys, bounce back much better than they did. It's still an open question with a guy like Fried with that much time off. This is a guy who hadn't pitched since middle of 2014, late 2014. So for him to put that exclamation point on the end of that first full season with Rome and in the Brave system was quite spectacular. And that Rome rotation was just absolutely sick. Prospects all up and down that. You had Mike Soraka, Colby Allard, Max Fried, Touki Toussaint. Just lots of talent in that team. I got to write up for Toolshed this week, just a basic players of the postseason, not necessarily MVPs, but just who performed the best. And I noted when I did the South Atlantic League, if I could give it to the whole staff, I would. I gave it to Fried for that performance in that Game 4 clincher. But that Rome Braves rotation is something to get really excited for. And if you're looking at that team that's going to be in Kissimmee, Florida next year, a lot of those guys are going to be carrying on to that Florida State team. And that's the first time that team is going to, A, be playing in that stadium, and B, as a Braves affiliate. So a lot of excitement going forward on that, a team that's carrying a championship from Rome, moving up a level. So those are the two I kind of stuck to. I really liked what you were talking about, though, with Great Lakes in that final game, and Jackson, who's changing affiliates. So what kind of stuck out to you?
Yeah, well, this is kind of an under-the-radar one that probably not many people heard about, but it's similar to the story that you told from the California League. We talked a lot coming into the season and throughout the season about the sort of lack of top-end talent in the Los Angeles Angels organization. But the rookie-level Orem Owls came out league champions in the Pioneer League, and they got a dominant pitching performance to start that Pioneer League Championship Series matchup with Billings from a right-hander named Sam Pastroni, who is probably not a player that a lot of people have heard of. He was a 17th-round selection out of Arborview High School in Las Vegas. He's still just 19 years old. He was a 17th-round pick in 2015. But this year, hadn't really been a good one for Pastroni. 3-5, a 6.00 ERA, and 14 outings in the regular season. But then he goes to the playoffs. I just went very Jim Mora there for a second. But Sam goes to the playoffs and turns in 6 perfect innings, struck out 7, longest start of his professional career, didn't have a long leash in terms of his pitch count, only threw 62 pitches over those 6 innings, 46 of them for strikes. And again, similarly to what you're talking about, Sam, to be able to finish your season on a note like that is so, so cool. And especially for a guy who had struggled all season, you never know which way a career is going to pan out. If the worst thing that happens to you is that you get to look back one day and say, yeah, and then I won a ring in the Pioneer League, and I got my team started by throwing a perfect game through 6 innings before I had to be lifted because of a pitch count, during the postseason in my age 19 campaign. That's pretty damn cool. So congratulations to Sam Pastroni, and congratulations to the Orem Owls, who win a championship in a year where really industry-wide, people have talked about just how down the Angels system is. It doesn't necessarily translate in wins and losses on the field. Yes, maybe the talent level doesn't seem to be what it is across other organizations, especially in that division, but teams are still able to win. Teams are still able to put together successful campaigns, and that's, that ever-winding conversation, winning versus development, the balance of that, how you put all that together in a minor league organization. Still pretty cool for these guys in Orem, and still pretty cool for the Angels as an organization to get a ring out of that team.
Yeah, definitely. And I almost feel like that's the place where you want to start winning championships. I mean, you want to win championships anywhere. Like, we talk about with El Paso, I'm sure, and Scranton, I'm sure the Yankees and Padres are both happy to have guys who are getting called up, getting rings on their last level outside, before they make the jump to the majors. But you're laying that foundation, right? So you want the guys at Orem, you want the guys in the AZL or the GCL or, the New York Penn League, the Appalachian League, the Pioneer League. You want their first entrance into pro ball to be a good one. So if you're talking about this Angel system and at Orem, some of these guys were just drafted this year, and now they've already got a ring. That's going to set up good things for this offseason. That's going to set up good things for next spring. When some of them go to Burlington next year, that's going to set up good things for that. That's going to be good vibes around that club starting there. So, as much as we talk about winning throughout the system, you want it at every level. To get it at that lower level, I think, is almost more important than maybe anywhere else.
Strike number 3, Sam, one of my favorite topics in all the planet. World Baseball Classic time. World Baseball Classic qualifier time in Brooklyn this weekend. First, on a personal note, I made a very dumb travel decision. I'm coming out there next week. I'll get to see Sam, give him a big bear hug, make him very uncomfortable, which is what I generally do.
Don't lie to people.
But I decided I'm going to fly into New York on Tuesday, and not go there this weekend when I could have gone to MCU Park in Brooklyn and watched these games. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with myself.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
Dumb.
It could have been a great day on Coney Island.
I know.
Watching the Israel team face off against Great Britain in a story from
Nathans?
Right. Yeah, I know. You should have. Think of the hot dogs.
Could have written
Think
the
of the non-sandwich hot dogs.
I've never even been. Well, since I was like 5, I haven't even been to Coney Island. Man, I really screwed this up. Anyway, all right. So next March, 16 teams will take the field sporting the colors of their nations to contest for the World Baseball Classic crown in the tournament's 4th incarnation. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. I've been to every WBC semifinal and championship game to this point. I'm as big a World Baseball Classic nerd as you will find. But this final qualifier is maybe the most intriguing in the grouping of teams. And we're going to talk about some of the prospects who are on these teams. And as we noted, we will talk with one of the prospects who will be on one of these teams. Team Brazil's Bo Bichette will join us here in a little bit. But among the 4 teams left in qualifying play, they'll square off this weekend at MCU Park, home of the Class A short season Brooklyn Cyclones on Coney Island. Brazil, Israel, Great Britain, and Pakistan. And Pakistan is the team that stands out to me as being the most fascinating, because since the WBC started in 2006, the conversation has always been, well, it's the rules of getting players on rosters, and it's not the same as for the Olympics and yada, yada. Pakistan is different in that you don't have players. Anthony Rizzo, for example, played for the Italian national team back in, I believe that was in 2013, actually, that he played for Italy. And so the rule for the World Baseball Classic is, if you are eligible to apply for citizenship to a country through your bloodlines, then you are eligible to play for that country. With the Olympic Games, you have to be a passport holder of said country, which also has come up with its own rash of issues. Back in 2004, when the Athens Games were held, there aren't many baseball players in the nation of Greece, so they basically just expedited a lot of passports for American baseball players with Greek heritage. But the WBC, the rules are a little bit more lax to fill out some of these rosters. But Pakistan does not fit that mold. Pakistan does not have a single player born or raised in the United States. They're bringing over their entire roster from Pakistan. They still had 5 players as of yesterday who hadn't even landed yet because of visa issues, and they basically hit the ground running coming up against Brazil this weekend. Israel and Pakistan will get started. Sunday is the championship game, which will be at 6 Eastern time. By the way, all these games will be streamed on MLB.com, but there's a lot of really cool storylines that go into this and a lot of really interesting prospects who play on these teams as well.
I kind of want to continue on that Pakistan note. There was a great New York Times story that came out this week. And as you mentioned, a lot of the team is coming straight from Pakistan. This is not like a bunch of minor leaguers who are around anyways and are just coming up to Brooklyn en masse. They're all flying from Pakistan itself. No American-born players on that team. A lot of them grew up playing cricket, which makes sense. In that story, the manager talks about how they have a couple guys who can throw around 90, which maybe 5-10 years ago sounded impressive. Now 90 is kind of an average fastball, which, I guess Pakistan being what it is, to find somebody who can throw an average fastball is still pretty good. But, what fascinates me is there just aren't baseball fields out there. These are guys who are practicing on cricket fields, on, rugby fields, on, I think what was mentioned was there are 2 baseball diamonds at the U.S. Embassy, and that's how a lot of these guys were practicing before they got here. But playing on artificial turf, which is what they use, here in Brooklyn, this is the first time they've ever played on that. And you talk to minor leaguers, and it takes a while to get used to that. Now they're playing on that in kind of high-pressure games. I mean, these are games that determine whether these guys get to go on to the big stage that is the World Baseball Classic. So that'll be fascinating just to see how those guys kind of take it there. The team I'm really, really intrigued by as well, from a guys I know standpoint, is Israel. Just because, as you mentioned, Tyler, anybody who is eligible for citizenship, you don't have to have the passport, you don't have to officially be a citizen.
Right.
If you are just eligible for citizenship, you are able to be a part of that country's team. So there's a lot of guys on this team Israel team that you will recognize. Ike Davis, Nate Fryman, Ty Kelly, Zach Borenstein, who is a prospect in the D-backs and Angels system, from years ago. Craig Breslow is there. Jason Marquis is there. Those are 2 guys with lots of major league experience. Ryan Lavarnway, minor league. I probably catch flack from him if he ever hears this. I don't want to say minor league star, minor league social media star Cody Decker, who spent this year at AA Portland in the Red Sox system. There's just a lot of names here that if you've ever followed the minors the last couple of years, you'll recognize. And so these are guys who know the game. They may have played in Brooklyn before, actually. So out of all the rosters that are kind of strung together, this might have the most talent. The problem is a lot of these guys are kind of on the older side, or they're quad A players, or, if they were in the majors right now, they would still be playing. They wouldn't be going to play for Team Israel. So these are, not to call people scraps, but these are just kind of the guys they could string together. Obviously all Jewish. That's how they're eligible to play for Team Israel. But it's just fascinating. That would be a really interesting team to see, how these kind of quad A guys could do up against a team like the Dominican Republic or Japan or Korea, come next spring in the WBC. But those are the kind of the two teams I'm following. But what do you kind of have your eye on, Tyler? I know you're much deeper into the WBC action than I am.
Into the nerdery. It's going to be a lot of fun watching all of these. No, I mean, that really is kind of my level of interest in the WBC. I just fell in love with the WBC when it came around in 2006, and it's some of the neatest sporting events that I've been to. The 2009 semis and championship game at Dodger Stadium were maybe the coolest baseball environment I've ever been a part of. The Japan-Korea game there was one of the best baseball environments I've ever seen anywhere, not just a game that I've attended. I'm interested to see how the Great Britain national team does. There are current and former prospects on that team as well. A name that probably sticks out to people who have been following the minor leaguers in all capacities in recent seasons is Antoine Richardson, who is from the Bahamas and will get to play for the British national team. Spent some time up with the Yankees, 13 games back in 2014. He's played 22 big league games over the course of his career, but Antoine Richardson has been all over the minors in recent seasons. This past year, he spent some time with Oklahoma City in the Dodgers system, in Indianapolis in the Pirates system, but he's been with the Rangers, he's been with the Yankees, he's been with the Twins and the Orioles. So he is there. And a lot of guys who, didn't really get much of a cup of coffee at the professional level, but at least were there. I mean, Barry Enright is a name you've heard of. Chris Brissett is on that team. And then there are names that you probably recognize from, I think I recognize seeing that in a box score at one time or another over the last few years. But that's a team that has a lot of stability in its coaching ranks, which I find really interesting because, for a team like Brazil, there are pillars of that national organization in baseball that have just sort of come on over the last few years. But for the Great Britain club, the coaching staff has been involved with that team for quite some time. So there are sort of avenues that I think that team feels more comfortable and more familiar with itself as an organization maybe than some of these other teams. So maybe they can make a little bit of noise. But I think talent-wise and, big game ability-wise, Brazil is probably the team that you look at to come out of this group. But Israel came within an extra innings loss of advancing to the 2013 tournament. They lost to Spain in the 2012 qualifiers in extra innings. So they're a talented team and a team with a lot of prospects, a lot of guys who have seen a lot of minor league time. But this is going to be fun. I mean, it's one of the neatest events, I think, in sports. And not just for what it provides for those of us who get to watch it, but for guys like Bo Bichette who get to play in such a neat baseball atmosphere that you don't get playing in just a regular minor league season. For these kids coming over from Pakistan, the managers, the coaches, the players who have never played on a real baseball field outside of the American embassy, the U.S. embassy over there has 2 baseball fields, and that's basically it. For people who have played on real baseball fields in Pakistan, it's pretty much those 2 facilities. Now you come over, you got the roller coaster, you got the big lights, you're playing in New York City. This is awesome for those guys. It's just such a cool event. I love it.
Yeah, and one thing I kind of want to touch on too is that, especially coming off the Olympics, we tend to make these sports that involve nations, we make them kind of geopolitical, right? We want to say like, oh, what is it going to be like with Israel facing Britain? Is this a memory of, something that happened in the middle of the century, whatever? And one thing I found really interesting was the Pakistan coach talking about, you've got Pakistan, which is mostly a Muslim nation, and Israel, which is, almost entirely a Jewish nation. And there's some clashing there. What this is going to be this weekend is just a tournament in Brooklyn.
Right.
It's going to be a really fun atmosphere to see these guys get on a field and play ball and try to win games, and to try to assign, Cody Decker is playing for the entire nation of Israel right now, and what he's doing it's not that. It's just a group of guys who have a common background, whether it's their grandparents came from this country, they were born in this country, whatever it was. That's what this is about. And so if Israel plays Pakistan this weekend, don't expect it to be some rivalry. Look for the light in the situation and not the darkness that some might assume would be there.
Syed Fakhar Shah, who is the manager of the Pakistan team, said, quote, "There are really just two countries in the world founded on religion, Pakistan and Israel. We're trying to keep this low. For us, it's a game, and we feel positive about it. Major League Baseball is doing a good thing, bringing countries together." Israel's manager is Jerry Weinstein, who's a coach in the Rockies organization, and he said, quote, "I'm the most apolitical person in the world. Playing Pakistan for me would be no different than managing in the Cal League or any other game." Both those quotes given to the New York Times. But yeah, it's just a way to unite teams that are playing a game against each other and are going to have some fun with it. And by the way, Liam Carroll is the name of the Great Britain manager, who I was talking ad nauseum about the coaching staff. I don't think I ever actually dropped Liam Carroll's name, but Liam Carroll's the manager who's been there for quite some time with Great Britain. And Barry Larkin obviously is piloting that Brazilian team. So going to be a fun weekend. Nerding out on the WBC, and we'll talk a little bit about it as that tournament closes, or this final leg of the qualifying stage of this tournament closes for next week, and get you set for what else we've got coming up this offseason, which is the Arizona Fall League and things to come. But before we get to all of that, we are going to talk a little bit more about this WBC with one of the top talents on that Brazilian national team squad, Toronto Blue Jays prospect, the number 12 ranked prospect in all the Toronto organization, Bo Bichette, son of a former Major League All-Star and the brother of a fellow very highly ranked prospect, at least at the start of his career, Dante Bichette Jr., who has seen some time at the AA level most recently for the New York Yankees organization with the Trenton Thunder. Bo Bichette will join the show to talk about the WBC qualifier and his start to his professional career in the Blue Jay system next. As promised, we are headed to Brooklyn. It's World Baseball Classic qualifier time, the fourth and final of 4 WBC qualifiers in 2016 ahead of the 2017 worldwide tournament. And we are joined by the Brazilian national team infielder Bo Bichette, who is the 12th ranked prospect in the Toronto Blue Jays organization and a member of Team Brazil for the 2016 WBC qualifier. Bo, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
So let's talk about the WBC first. You look down this Brazilian national team roster, and there are names that people would probably recognize, baseball fans who know, somewhat of the background of players who are from Brazil. Andre Rienzo has been a minor league prospect for a long time, seen some time in the big leagues. Leonardo Reginato is on that team, also a Brazilian-born player. But then you're scanning down, and you see, wait a minute, Bo and Dante Bichette. This is something that not a lot of people would understand the process of how this came about. I mean, you guys, Floridians. Bo was drafted in the second round of this year's draft by the Blue Jays. Dante's been in the Yankee system for a while. How did this come about that you guys got the opportunity to play for Brazil?
Well, when we saw them 4 years ago in the World Baseball Classic, they did a really good job qualifying, beating Panama. And then they played well against some good teams. I think they played Japan and Cuba. They competed. And so 4 years ago, we were really excited, hey, in 4 years, maybe we can try and make the team. And this year we completely forgot until kind of like the last second, but we got on the team, and we're able to be on the team because my mom was born in Porto Alegre in Brazil, and so I guess that qualifies us.
So did you guys, when you were kids, did you have much of a connection? Did you travel down there? Is your mom's family still there? What's your background?
So my grandparents just moved like a few years ago to the USA. Me and my brother have never been over there, but we plan to go there soon and visit. My mom has like cousins and uncles and aunts still living there. So
And I kind of wanted to ask you about this because I found your mom's Instagram, and I'm sure that's what every son loves to hear.
Yeah.
But she said, thankful my parents always told me to keep my birth certificate handy, and then she has the Brazil flag, and I think it's a picture of you behind the Brazil flag in the Brooklyn dugout. So was there like some mad chase to find her birth certificate? Like what went into that? And like you said, how did you guys? You said it was last minute, so how did that process kind of come together?
Well, I asked my agent to see if he could look into it, and last second they said, "Hey, Brazil wants to try and get you on the roster. Can you send us, everything you have?" And he gave us a list, and I think there's something going on in Brazil right now where they can't get you papers and stuff when you need it, and so that's what Mom was saying. Thank God I kept my birth certificate and didn't have to go try and find it.
Yeah, been kind of a complicated last few months politically in Brazil, but this is a team that probably not a ton of people realize or remember. Brazil had a very talented team in the 2013 WBC, played very, very well. They finished 0-3, but really kept games close. Brazil lost a game to Japan 5-3. They lost to Cuba 5-2. So it's a team that certainly has experienced some success already at the WBC, but this roster looks different from 2013. You guys get into New York, have a little bit of a mini camp. You've been working out in Brooklyn. It's such a quick process to get right in and form a team. But what has it been like for you guys as a group, kind of figuring out what everybody's like and what this roster will be like this weekend?
Yeah, it's been really fun. The players welcome me and my brother in pretty seamlessly, and they are crazy, man. They have like a great connection with each other. It's a great team atmosphere, and it's been a lot of fun.
And just kind of for you personally, you're an infielder. You got a lot of time at shortstop this year in the GCL, a little bit of time at second base. Your manager with Brazil is Hall of Famer Barry Larkin. I know it's been a short amount of time, but what are you able to pick up from him, and what are you trying to pick his brain about, in this time that you have with him over the weekend?
Well, everything. The ultimate goal is to stay at shortstop or even in the middle of the field. And so when I came here, I knew I was going to try and pick his brain as much as I could. And he's been awesome. He's been encouraging and helped me a lot on a ton of different things defensively and in the mindset of the game too. So he's been awesome.
Bo, you've got your brother there too, and Dante obviously has had a little bit more experience at the professional level, being the older brother, and to not only have him there for this tournament, but to have him there as somebody that you're able to bounce stuff off of, throughout your professional career so far. We've asked this about a lot of prospects who we've had on the show who have had brothers who have traveled that road before them, but what's that relationship been like to you since you got into pro ball this summer, having somebody in Dante, and it's obviously having your father too, but played in a much different era in terms of the minor league game, but being able to have those guys to go to when you got questions about the professional life or whatever it is.
Yeah, well, me and my brother are best friends, so I've pretty much went through everything with him. Anything he's, been successful at or struggled at, and it's honestly, it couldn't have worked out better for me, to be able to see the ups and downs in the minor leagues, the struggle that you go through. Getting to your hotel at 4 a.m. and then having to play that day and stuff like that. So, learning from him and how to take care of yourself in the minor league season has been huge for me.
And what's been the one thing that's kind of surprised you? It's like in any situation, people can tell you what it's going to be like, but you're not going to know until you get there. What's been the one surprising thing about pro ball so far? It's only been a couple months, but what would you say that would be?
Well, I guess it would be like, so I was in rookie ball this year, and we played every day, obviously, and in the GCL we play at 12 p.m., in the scorching sun and all that. But I would say the biggest surprise was in the lower levels how much you practice every day, even though you have a game. And like in high school, you don't practice before a game, that type of thing. So that's been surprising for me.
All right, and I kind of want to go over this GCL season for you. Just looking at the numbers, it was kind of an insane season. You were named a GCL end of season All-Star. You hit 427 over 22
good.
games. Yeah, that's pretty good over any stretch. What was this season kind of like? Because I know you got off to a really hot start, and then end of July, you had to undergo an appendectomy, I think. What was it like getting off to that hot start and then having your season kind of just put on hold like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was obviously a good feeling for me to start your professional career off like that. It gives you a lot of confidence. But I actually didn't have an appendectomy. I know there's a lot of people saying that I did, but I actually didn't. I had appendicitis and my appendix burst, which is not a good thing.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. But somehow my body absorbed the appendix and absorbed any type of infection that would have affected me. And so I kind of just like gave myself surgery, I guess. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That sounds like some future with those numbers and then that. Are you sure you're not a robot? I
Bo,
feel like that's the question I have to ask.
Are you part earthworm here? Like if we cut off your arm, would you grow another one?
I don't know. I got a ton of nicknames. I was asked if I was an alien. People were calling me Chuck Norris, that kind of thing.
So walk us through this process then. So you've got appendicitis, which I've heard is one of the most painful things that a human being can undergo, really. You get to, did you go to the ER and then a few days later they say, we took an x-ray and it appears that you just devoured your own appendix? What happened here?
Well, it was bothering me for a while. Like I was playing through it, and one day it was bothering me, quite a bit, and it just wouldn't go away. So I, asked if I go see the doctor. Went to see the doctor, and the doctor told me it was probably a virus and that it would go away soon. So I go back and I play a few more games, and I think like 3 games after that doctor's visit, I said, "Hey guys, I just can't do this anymore. It hurts too bad." So I went to the ER, and the ER, said it's your appendicitis and you go to the emergency room. And so, then the rest is history. It told me it's burst and I was fine. I don't know.
That is amazing. That is really amazing.
All right, so just kind of going back to then when you were on the field and you were hitting close to 400 for part of the year and then you breached that number, how were you able to hit the ground running like that? I mean, a lot of guys your age, you're teenagers, you're coming off facing high school pitching. You have the showcase circuits, all that kind of stuff, so you face some of that there. But, to put it kind of simply, what made it look so easy for you out there?
I don't know. I just worried about preparing every day, working hard, that kind of thing. I mean, obviously I played well. I guess I was seeing the ball really well. I definitely don't expect to put up those kind of numbers the rest of my career, but I just prepare really hard. I take pride in preparing harder than anybody that I know, so I guess all of that goes into it.
Bo, to have had the season cut short then, and obviously the physical recovery that comes along with that, you are going to get a lot of extra at-bats this weekend, getting a chance to play for Brazil, and it's something that not a lot of players have the opportunity to do, to play in these qualifiers, and especially to do it at this time of year, to do it after the season is over. How valuable is that for you to get on the field, get a few games in against some high-quality competition, and be able to ride those into the offseason?
Yeah, well, I'm excited. I really just love playing baseball, so that's fun. But right after this, I actually have to go to instructional league. So I mean, I was going to get my bets anyways, but I'm just excited that I get to do it in this type of environment.
And have they given you any indication, what your playing time is going to be like on this Brazil team? I mean, you've gone through the workouts. We haven't seen any of them yet, but are you going to be starting games at shortstop? Are you starting second? What has Barry Larkin told you about the plan?
I don't know exactly what's going to go on, but, I guess it's up to him. I'm not going to say I should start or anything like that, or if I think I am, but I've been at shortstop pretty much the entire time, a little bit of second base in practices. So, I guess it seems like if I don't start, that's where I'll come in if I play at shortstop.
Yeah. And just this one last one to let you go, when this tournament of qualifiers is over, when Instructs is over, when you're going back home, probably working out with brother Dante, what's going to kind of be your point of emphasis, going into next year, your first full season, probably starting at Class A Lansing, what are you going to be trying to work on specifically to improve your game and kind of build on what you've already done this year?
Yeah. I just want to get stronger in all phases. Get in better shape, like every off season. Get stronger, get faster, get my arm better. Everything, it's just a nonstop grind to get better, I guess, your entire career. So that's my plan.
He is Bo Bichette, the 12th-ranked prospect in the Toronto Blue Jays organization and an infielder on the Brazilian national team for the final qualifier, the WBC's 2016 slate 2017 tournament coming up in Brazil, which is very much one of the favored teams in this last group of qualifiers, can make it on through. They will play once more coming up in the 2017 tournament, which will be March of next year all around the globe. And Bo, congratulations on being selected for the tournament. Enjoy every minute of it, because obviously a pretty unique experience and something really cool. And best of luck when you get to Instructs.
Okay, thank you for having me, guys.
Off-season news and headlines are cooking hot and cooking fresh. I think it's a phrase. Is that a phrase? Let's make that a phrase. Why not?
Cooking hot,
cooking fresh.
This
and
is why you
Benjamin Hill,
failed out of advertising school. Man.
The chef, is on to discuss all of it. Hi, Ben.
Hey, yeah, I am the master chef.
The master
Slicing
chef.
and dicing, chopping and
flopping,
sauteing.
I was going to say, what rhymes with chopping?
I was going to say chopping and dropping. I was like, that doesn't make sense.
That could work. I don't know. Maybe. Doesn't make any less sense than what I said to start.
Sauteing and filleting these prime minor league news stories.
Well, let's get started. It is minor league affiliation change time, and this is always one of the most confusing times of the minor league calendar for the casual minor league baseball fan. We've already had a lot of teams that have switched affiliations with player development contracts that have been up. Obviously, we had the two teams contracted from the California League. That will mean two additions to the Carolina League. We will talk about one of those teams coming up here in a little bit, but we've already had a handful of teams that have changed hands already. And just to give you a snippet of what some of these changes look like, let's take the AA Southern League, for example. The Jackson Generals, who just won a Southern League championship with the Seattle Mariners organization, will in 2017 be an Arizona Diamondbacks affiliate. The Mobile Bay Bears, the former Arizona Diamondbacks affiliate, will now be a Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim affiliate. And the Angels' old AA affiliate, which was in the Texas League, is the new Mariners affiliate. So there's like a three-way dance going on there. But this goes on all across the minor leagues, and it's one of the most, if you're somebody who doesn't pay a ton of attention to minor league baseball or what it means, or even if you're somebody who's just starting to, this is kind of one of those confusing times of the year. What does it mean for the team? What does it mean for the players? What does it mean for the coaches?
It is a confusing time of year, but I think it's important to note in all the confusion that, one, with 160 teams, the vast majority stay in the situation in which they have been. They stay affiliated with the same minor league team. Or with the same major league organization. And that's in some cases because the major league team owns the minor league team, and in a lot of cases it's just because it's a relationship that's working. And every time that this time of year comes around, every 2 years at the conclusion of an even-numbered season, you make a lot of relationship analogies. Like there's the long, happy marriages, your Reading fighting Phils and the Philadelphia Phillies, who've been affiliated since 1967. And then you have the uneasy relationships where you kind of assume it's because at least one party doesn't want to be there, but they don't have a better option. Maybe Las Vegas is usually an example of that, with them usually teams not wanting to have their AAA affiliate in Las Vegas. Right now, the Mets are in Vegas, and they've re-upped for another 2 years. Sometimes it's the proverbial last call at the bar, and there's two people left, and they're the ones who just kind of have to couple up and join together for a little while. So it is like a relationship, but a relationship between a major and minor league team. And the player development contracts, which we usually just call PDCs, they are for 2 or 4 years, and those are what govern affiliations. And once they're up for expiration, then you can look elsewhere if that's what you want to do, or in most cases, the parties involved renew them. And the professional baseball agreement, the PBA, between major and minor league baseball, calls for a set number of PDCs, 160 right now, which is what has created, a long-term stability in minor league baseball, that there's this many guaranteed affiliations throughout minor league baseball. And that will be the case through at least 2020. And that brings up a whole lot of new other issues that we'll talk about in a few years, I'm sure. But here we are in PDC season, and some significant changes, but the more things change, the more they stay the same. The landscape is still more similar than not heading into 2017.
And one of the things to keep in mind, for people to keep in mind, when an affiliation does move, so let's take these players who were on the AA Jackson Generals, who were Seattle Mariners prospects. Those players don't really have a connection to Jackson. Jackson was just kind of where they were assigned. It's the office to which their company assigned them. Let's put it that way. So they've basically just been transferred to the Arkansas branch next year. That's kind of how it works with players and coaches, player development staff, that sort of thing. Because that's often a question is, well, what does that mean for the players? So are the players now, are they going to be Diamondbacks players going into next year? No, it's not how it works. The affiliation is what moves. So the front office staff will stay the same. So Jackson's sales staff, their broadcast team, their promotions group, they'll all stay there, but the players move on to the new affiliation. So it's a couple of separate entities, the business side and the on-field side.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're to use Jackson as this continuing example, if you are a fan of the Jackson Generals and you go to a game in 2017, you will be going to the same stadium, seeing the same front office staff, seeing teams in the same uniforms. It just happens to be that those players are now affiliates of the Arizona Diamondbacks and not the Mariners. It doesn't really change the fan experience or what the atmosphere at the stadium is like. It is it's inside baseball, if you will.
And just take us through kind of what all the movement that goes on in Class A Advanced here. Actually, before we get to that, there was some follow-up I wanted on this, which was you mentioned that it's a PDC, it's a player development contract. And so how much of it is, an agreement, or how much of this disagreement between sides can be on the minor league side and the major league side? I think a lot of people, when they hear, an affiliation is moving, it's because the major league team wanted it. But how much can a minor league team play into that?
It's both. It's very much a two-way street. Minor league teams, I think the number one thing they want, the number one thing that both parties want, if possible, is proximity to one another. On the major league side, that means you can move your players with promotions and demotions, with much more efficiency if you have your minor league teams clustered together, and if that clustering is ideally around the major league club itself. And minor league teams, of course, want to be an affiliate of the closest major league team because that increases fan interest, and that's why in most cases the longest running affiliations are between major and minor league teams that are close to one another. I used Reading as an example. The people who live in Reading, Pennsylvania are Phillies fans, so it makes sense for them to be a Phillies affiliate because there is that much more interest on a fan level in Reading in that, hey, we saw Ryan Howard, we saw Jimmy Rollins, we saw, going back decades, Greg Luzinski and Mike Schmidt. So it makes a lot of sense there. And some minor league teams more than others want to be affiliated with a major league organization that has a commitment to winning, that has a proven track record of winning at the minor league level. For some minor league teams, that's important. Others, not so much. They're just more fixated on the fan experience. And again, like a relationship, you kind of want to be paid attention to. And I've definitely talked to minor league employees through the years who will say like, oh, well, we are an affiliate of this team, and the GM, visited us once in 4 years. You kind of want to feel like you're part of a larger structure, an organization that cares about you and values you. On the major league side, yes, they want minor league teams that are that have geographical proximity, of course, but they also are looking for good facilities, and that's usually the main thing that causes a major league team to want to move. If they say, oh, well, we're in this market for our AA team, and we're in this stadium, but coming up the end of the year, this one, which has indoor batting cages and much bigger clubhouse and locker rooms and a better weight room and what have you, they might try to make that switch. And that's very much a consideration when building new stadiums is, of course, it's going to have all the fan amenities, and that's what people are going to notice and talk about. But it's pretty much a guarantee that new stadiums are going to have a good player amenities as well, because that makes them most desirable for the major league affiliate and gives them the best pick of potential major league affiliates because people will want to be with them.
And just to go back to what I was originally going to ask until I came up with a better question that I wanted more immediately. But, talk a little bit about how all this realignment in the California League, California League sending two teams over to the Carolina League and how that's kind of working, and how, affiliation changes is going to play into that as well. Yeah,
the Class A advanced level is easily the most confusing right now. And the one with the most movement of any minor league level. Class A advanced level being California, Carolina, and Florida state leagues. So 2 teams in the California League are no longer going to exist: the Bakersfield Blaze and the High Desert Mavericks. 2 teams in the Carolina League are going to be added. One we know is in Kinston, and they will be known as the Down East something or others. There's a name of the team contest we can talk about down the line.
In a little bit.
And that's fairly straightforward. The High Desert Mavericks, who no longer exist, were a Rangers affiliate. Now there's a new team in the Carolina League, and that team is owned by the Rangers. And the Kinston, Down East, what have yous will be a Rangers affiliate. So you can pretty easily say, okay, the Rangers had High Desert as their Class A affiliate, Class A advanced affiliate. High Desert's no more, and now that Class A advanced affiliate is one of the new teams in the Carolina League in Kinston. It's more complicated with Bakersfield because they no longer they will no longer exist, but they were a Mariners affiliate. The Mariners, meanwhile, are now a Modesto affiliate. But the new team in the Carolina League that's essentially replacing the Bakersfield Blaze will most likely be an Astros affiliate and most likely play in Fayetteville, but they still need to get their stadium together. And assuming that the new team in the Carolina League is an Astros affiliate, that means Lancaster in the California League, which had been an Astros affiliate, is now looking for a new affiliate. So it gets really confusing. Everything I just said made sense, and I've been writing an article about it and trying to be as concise and informative as I can, and even hearing myself talk, I'm like, this is just so much to keep track of. And I think the key is for any fan who wants to really pay attention to this, and Sam and I were talking about this before we started, got on the air with you, Tyler, is to look at each thing as a separate move, as a separate thing. Say, I'm interested in this team. Here's what they're doing. Okay, got it. And then move to the next. Because when you combine everything, well, this is happening, which means this is happening, which means there's an opening here, and there's an opening here, and this might happen over here. You can talk and be factual, but just get very confusing very, very quickly. So at the Class A advanced level, we don't exactly know what the second new Carolina League team, where they will be and who they will be affiliated with. It's almost certainly the Astros, but that still has some things we need to figure out. We need to figure out who's going to be affiliated with the Lancaster Jethawks now that it's almost certainly not the Astros. The new team that had been Brevard County Manatees that is now playing in Kissimmee, that is going to be a Braves affiliate. So now we need to find out who will play in Zebulon, North Carolina, where the Braves previously had been, et cetera, et cetera. Still a few more dominoes to fall at the Class A advanced level.
Well, let's talk about one of those teams. As Ben mentioned, the team that will take up residence in historic Ranger Stadium in Kinston, North Carolina, will not be known as the Kinston team name. They will be known as the Down East team name, which actually caused a bit of consternation in Kinston this week because something that I did not know, Down East actually refers to a part of the state in North Carolina of which Kinston is not a part. It's a part further southeast on the coast in Down East. And there was an editorial in the Kinston Free Press that pointed that out. But in addition to that, these are the 5 team name possibilities, and it seems like it's a weekly thing for us that we go over possible new team names for a franchise that's either rebranding or deciding if they want to rebrand or a new team. These are the 5. Eagles, which is a very historic name that's tied to Kinston's first professional baseball team. Ham Hawks, which is both a barbecue reference and also an aviation reference. Kind of an interesting one we'll come back to. Hogzillas, also a barbecue thing. Shaggers, which is a reference to the Carolina Shag, which is the official dance of, I know, South Carolina, maybe North Carolina too, and the Wood Ducks. And all of those teams will be preceded by the geographic moniker Down East. I understand from the marketing standpoint, wanting to draw from a regional fan base. But I think there were a lot of very valid issues raised in this Kinston Free Press editorial earlier this week of the movement to get baseball back in Kinston has been a Kinston movement. It hasn't been a regional movement. So does it surprise you, Ben, that this has turned into now, which obviously seems to be something that's been conjured by the Texas Rangers organization. They've been the big push behind obviously buying a franchise, getting it to Kinston. But to name it something geographic when it seemed like Kinston was really the linchpin of this whole thing. Does that surprise you?
In a word, no. I think like the Kinston editorial you mentioned and any consternation which you referenced, I think they are valid points because it wasn't the Down East region of North Carolina that pushed to return minor league baseball to
Right.
the region. As you said, it was very much Kinston, which has an old stadium in Granger, which has decades of history of hosting baseball, which kept that stadium in shape to host minor league baseball, which, you know, did the legwork to agree to a lease with the Rangers. And I understand, you know, no, this is about us. You know, we're Kinston, and, you know, our city government made this work, and us, the fans, have a long history of supporting baseball in this town. And now to be represented by a region of the state that we don't even consider ourselves a part of, you know, I think if I lived in that area, I would probably be insulted. But if you look at it from a marketing standpoint, Kinston is one of the absolute smallest markets in all of full season minor league baseball. The town itself has a population of, I'm not sure if it's even hitting 20,000 people. And so when you have a Class A advanced franchise and you're trying to draw from much more than just, you know, Kinston, North Carolina, here Sam's looking it up, 21,677 people in the 2010 census, you do want a name that's going to speak and reach out and grab people beyond this small town. And I understand it from a marketing perspective of how can we draw not just from Kinston and the immediate area, but go deeper into the region and go, yes, further down east, you know, past where Kinston actually is in the state. So I think I understand it from that perspective. They want to capture an audience via the name that maybe just using Kinston would not have done.
And kind of go over some of these names for us now then, you know, between the Eagles, Ham Hawks, Hogzillas, Shaggers, Wood Ducks. You know, we won't do the thing we do every week and say which is your favorite, because, you know, it's going to be impossible to figure that out and which is going to be picked here. But how do you think this group of names kind of compares to some of the other ones we've seen in Staten Island, Binghamton, New Orleans, so on and so forth?
I think, and you guys can say if you disagree, but I think it's very much of a piece with what we've seen throughout this off-season rebranding efforts, what we've seen in New Orleans, what we've seen in Binghamton, what we almost saw in Lynchburg before they decided to stay with the Hillcats, what we're seeing in Florida in the team in Kissimmee. I always want to say that
I've
name
always
wrong.
said Kissimmee.
Yeah, Kissimmee.
But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
If Floridians want to write in and tell us exactly how to pronounce it, we're welcome to that.
Yes,
so we don't
please.
have this problem.
Yes, please do. Because every time I say that name, I have this bout of anxiety that I'm saying it wrong. Anyway, I feel like what we have here in Down East for the team that we're playing in Kinston, I feel like we very much have something that is of a piece with 21st century or the last 5 years, especially of minor league baseball history. There is one, you know, conservative historical choice in the Eagles, you know, throwing a bone to the traditionalists. We have not seen those traditional names get selected much at all. So I think we are learning, as much as it does create outrage among big segments of the fan base, as much as a lot of people say, you know, fire your marketing team. And I say this again and again, I feel like I'm a broken record, but we see the irreverence and the goofiness of these names again and again because it ultimately works. And often a lot of the outrage is from people who have not seen it work elsewhere because they live where they do. And then they don't know that, you know, that the similar thing played out in Richmond and in Akron and Pensacola and in Lehigh Valley and ultimately worked with the irreverent name, and how much that name ties into the larger branding experience of the stadium and the whole fan experience, and not just the name on the jersey. So I think it's always one of those give it time type of situations. But yeah, outside of Eagles, when you have Ham Hawks, Hogzillas, Shaggers, Wood Ducks, it's a pretty quirky bunch. I can see how people say, like, man, first of all, you're not even representing the city that we're actually playing in, and now there's this collection of names that is just downright silly. So they're going to have to get over that, but you know, it's the 21st century minor league baseball rebranding playbook. The controversy is good in a way because it gets people talking about your franchise at a time of the year when most regions are 100% focused on football and its variations, you know, high school, college, pro. To be talking about minor league baseball as September turns to October is a feat in and of itself.
And a story just up today on the Kinston Free Press's site that renovations have already begun at Granger Stadium. They'll be building a new concession stand. They're repainting the stadium, updating field lighting, putting pads on the outfield walls, which is something that they did not have for a long time. It was just brick walls in the outfield. So I'm sure a lot of Carolina League outfielders will be pumped to see that. So yeah, I mean, it is certainly the talk of the town in Kinston and in the Lenore County region, and maybe even down east. Who knows? It could be.
It's gonna be a talk of the state, talk of the nation, really.
Exactly, it's happening. The Kinston Blanks, or the Down East Blanks, a team that will take the field in 2017, and it's amazing how quickly focus turns to 2017, because basically as soon as you get done with the season, if you're a minor league front office staff member, you take a week, you kind of lick your wounds, clean up the office, do whatever, and then all of a sudden it's promo seminar time, and promo seminar is coming up next week already.
It is. I wish I had several more weeks to lick my wounds. I'd be wound licking for a long time. But here we are on the way to Birmingham for the promo seminar. I'll be there next week. When I talk to you guys next week and do this segment, it will be remote from some, from some remote hotel, ballroom, convention center location somewhere in Birmingham. I've been going to the promo seminar. First one I attended, I think, was back in I can tell you it was 2008 because I remember watching in my hotel room the NLDS game between the Brewers and Phillies, in which Brett Myers.
Wow, does that feel like a while ago?
Yeah. I was just going to say, man, when was the last time you said that sentence about a National League postseason?
Yeah, the Brewers and the Phillies. But remember, Brett Myers worked that. Was it a walk off of CC Sabathia?
Yeah, that does sound right.
Yeah, I remember watching that in the hotel.
Brewers, CC Sabathia.
Yeah, so I've been going since way back in that era. I was a young man then. And so what the promo seminar is, for those who don't know, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know because it's an industry event. It's not really something that's geared to the larger populace. I feel like I'm probably the only person who's ever written about it for any audience whatsoever, as small as that audience may be sometimes. But the premise of the promo seminar, for years, the tagline has been one idea is worth the price of admission. And basically it's under the premise of minor league teams do not compete with one another. They all operate within their specific territory, their specific region, their locale. So therefore, a rising tide lifts all boats, or what have you. And the seminar takes place right after the season so that teams with the recently concluded season fresh on their mind can share ideas throughout the course of 3 days and hopefully give their peers ideas to take back with them. And you can definitely see the effect of the promo seminar in the next season's promo schedule, be it celebrity guests or certain theme nights that might work. One year, it was a couple years ago, that Lowell talked glowingly of how they did military trading cards, in which the trading card sets they gave away were of local military members and fans had submitted the pictures and the bios. And a lot of teams picked up on that, and the next year there was probably a dozen of those, and now they become a tradition among markets all over the country. So when you do start to see a promo proliferate in minor league baseball, if you're such a type of person who pays attention to such things, the reason may be because that idea was shared at the promo seminar, and so it does have a ripple effect throughout the course of the next season and seasons to come in terms of what the fan experience is at the ballpark. So there are a lot of large, ballroom presentations, of which I give one of those, sort of an overview of my travels. But then there's also a lot of small group sessions where people who work in different aspects of minor league baseball, media relations or community relations or various executives or what have you, they can break into smaller groups and talk about issues that really affect their specific job. And so there's a lot of networking, a lot of talking, a lot of drinking. This is an industry that, people know each other because there's so much movement in minor league baseball that, if you really devote yourself to a career in minor league baseball, you're going to end up at a bunch of locales. You're going to meet so many people along the way. And the promo seminar and the winter meetings are really the only time that this industry gets together in one place. So it's a very collegial atmosphere. You see people that you communicate with throughout the year, incidentally here and there, but it's really a time to reestablish relationships as well. And that's one of the reasons I like to go. Maybe not so much for what I end up writing about at the seminar, but for learning about what the teams have done with their seasons, for getting ideas for future stories, and also to have my ego pumped up a little bit, because I start to feel like, no one reads my stuff in the off season, and then I get around a bunch of people who know who I am, and I feel like a celebrity for a few days. So thank you.
It's a good way to be.
Yeah, a quasi-celebrity.
He's Benjamin Hill. You can find him on Twitter. He is at Ben's Biz there, and the blog, bensbiz.mlblogs.com as well. And good stuff coming up from the promo seminar. And again, continuing to roll through the last, I shouldn't say the last because it'll probably be going on for a little while, but the remainder of the content from all the road trips this year.
Yeah, don't sleep on the blog, please. I'm still just doing full reports from all the places I visited, as much as I've written articles and short blog posts and had a social media presence from all these different places I visited. On the blog right now, I have full reports. Right now, the most recent is from Bluefield. So we're going back 2 months ago when I was in the Appy League. But I feel like this stuff is timeless. It is evergreen. And do me a favor and go to Ben's Biz blog. Google Ben's Biz, bensbiz.mlblogs.com. Check it out. Let me know you're reading. I do think it's worthwhile and fun stuff, I'd like to think. And it doesn't really matter when it comes out. It's baseball, and it's the minor league fan experience.
And not only those things, but go to milbstore.com and get yourself a Ben's Biz t-shirt as well.
I'll do it. And let me know if you
that?
buy one. I think we've hit double digits in sales. So, this is a train that cannot be stopped. It is rolling across the nation.
I, by the way, just the other day went to the store site and realized that we now sell like classic merchandise. We even sell some Ebbetsfield flannel stuff on our site, the MILB Hometown Collection. Yeah, you can get a Portland Mavericks cap. You can get a San Francisco Seals cap, a Kansas City Blues cap. If you're a Wichita Wranglers fan, we've got 5950s of the Wranglers logo. The Madison Hatters. There's some good stuff up there.
Let's not detract from the main point you're trying to make.
Main
which is
point,
please buy a Ben's Biz t-shirt at the MILB team store.
You know what else is on there, which I may actually purchase one day? There's a Cape Fear Crocs shirt.
I might get that one. That one's worth talking about.
Just because we can forever sing the song when we engage in purchasing t-shirts of random, now long-defunct teams. Go get yourself a Ben's Biz shirt. That's what matters. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Final segment of episode number 77 of the Show Before the Show podcast. Before we get out of here, because we do not have any MILB TV games to direct you to, obviously, what we do have the ability to direct you to is a story from NPR affiliate WBUR in Boston titled, quote, "When a burst appendix doesn't kill you." As soon as Sam and I hung up with Bo Bichette, we were like, wait a minute, I've never heard of this. What is the explanation here? Basically, some backstory. I think this is the first and probably the only time that we've referenced NPR on the podcast. But just to give you some backstory, WBUR news director Martha Little, this is back in 2012, she too, like Bo Bichette, contracted appendicitis. And she too just thought, like, well, this is annoying. She thought it was food poisoning for a while, then thought it was just some abdominal pain. Gets into a doctor who says, yeah, you should go to an emergency room. There is, quote, something cooking around your appendix, which is not anything I ever want to hear from a doctor.
No.
She goes to the hospital. They say to her that she could wait 8 weeks for surgery. Her response is, 8 weeks? What would happen if the appendix burst? And their response is, it has already burst. So apparently what happens is, according to this story, the body has the ability in certain cases to, quote, wall off the perforated appendix so that the infection doesn't spread. So apparently, Bo Bichette, like, are these superhumans? Like, is Bo Bichette, should we see if, like, he can fly and things? Or equally as impressive, if he could be the news director at a public radio station?
Yeah. That
could
would be
also
great.
work.
I mean, he did really well in the interview.
Yeah,
so
he did. He was a very bright kid.
He's passing on the radio genes for sure. Well, we know he can hit baseballs really well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already made it to a point of baseball that very few do.
Right.
So, well, kind of watch this space, I guess.
Yeah.
Because the things we have learned today about Bo Bichette.
Good baseball player.
Very eye-opening.
Maybe Art Cyborg.
Yeah, and I'm glad he was able to kind of clear the record on that because I had read, as he mentioned, people have called it an appendectomy, but that's not what happened here. It was something much scarier. And that has been this week's Medical Watch. Yeah, Medical Watch in the minors. Tune in next week where we hopefully find some interviewer.
Medical Watch. Oh.
No.
I'm sorry.
Don't force it.
I didn't mean it.
Don't force it. Yeah, hopefully next week we don't have some terrifying breaking injury news on the podcast.
That was amazing.
I never want to have to fact check something like that ever again.
That absolutely blew my mind. Bo Bichette, you can find on Twitter. He is at Bo Knows 1919, and that'll just about wrap up the 77th edition of the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com. But even though you cannot watch minor league games on MILB TV this week, you can tune into WBC qualifier games from Brooklyn coming up this weekend on MLB.com and on WorldBaseballClassic.com. So you can find those there. You can watch guys like Bo Bichette and Dante Bichette. And there is some very intriguing stuff like we talked about in that opening segment that's going on this weekend in the WBC's final qualifying tournament for the 2017 edition of the competition. So I'm pumped. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I don't know why I didn't fly out 4 days earlier so I could go to these games, but nobody ever accused me of being smart. So
you just have to watch on TV or on TV or on your whatever device you choose, like the rest of us plebeians,
or mobile device, one of those things. So I guess that'll do it. Big thanks to Bo Bichette. Big thanks to Kelsie Heneghan for joining us and Benjamin Hill as well. And next week we'll get you all set for the Arizona Fall League. We'll probably recap the WBC qualifiers, and we'll do a whole heck of a lot more as we get rolling into the off season on the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com. We'll talk to you then.